Your emotions are like the weather. You can't control when a storm hits, but you can choose whether or not to be swept away by it. Most people are slaves to their lizard brain, reacting to every spark of anger or wave of anxiety as if it's a life or death emergency. Today, we are combining ancient Stoic wisdom with modern neuroscience to build your emotional firewall. I'll show you how to widen the gap between a feeling and a reaction, so you can stay rational while everyone else is losing their minds. The reactivity trap: why your brain is naturally wired for drama. Your brain is wired to react quickly to surprising events. This is how we survive a sudden danger or a sharp comment, and it keeps us alive in the moment. A fast alarm lights up the lizard brain and pushes the body toward action before words can form. The signal moves fast, leaving the calm pilot slower to respond. The gap between feeling and action is real, and it's where choices live. Emotions are data, not instructions. They tell you what matters in a situation, but they don't tell you exactly what to do next. The reactivity trap shows up when the data storms into the mind and the drama begins. A comment lands, a look is shared, a plan is questioned, and the alarm treats it as a danger. The lizard brain sounds loud, and the body tightens. Breath gets shallower, thoughts rush. You find yourself replying with heat, not with care. This is not a sign that you are weak. It's a sign that your wiring is doing its job, fast, automatic, and built for quick action. The calm pilot can take over, but it needs a moment and a practiced habit to enter the cockpit. Think of the emotional firewall as a boundary you build around your responses. It's not a wall that blocks feeling. It's a buffer that lets you observe emotion before you act. When a trigger hits, label the data. I notice anger because I felt disrespected, or I sense fear about what this means for me. Naming the emotion short-circuits the story you tell yourself and lowers the heat. The gap then opens, a tiny space where you wait, even for a breath or two, before you speak or decide. In that moment, the lizard brain relaxes a bit, and the calm pilot gains a clear view of options. With practice, you start to use the calm pilot consistently. One practical pattern is pause, label, choose. Pause for a breath or two, label the feeling as data, choose a response that fits your values rather than your impulse. In a real scene, this might mean asking a clarifying question, stating a boundary calmly, or delaying a response until the emotion settles. For example, if a colleague snaps in a meeting, you can say, "I want to understand what you mean. Can you explain your point?" That keeps the data flowing without locking you into drama. Another everyday use is when you're in traffic or on a busy chat thread. You notice the surge, take a slow inhale, and pick a polite, direct reply instead of a heated one. The aim is simple: treat emotion as information, not instruction. When you notice anger, it might point to a boundary that needs defending. When you feel fear, it might flag a risk you should assess, not a reason to bolt. The emotional data can guide you, but it won't drive the car alone. That is the core of training a calmer, more rational brain. Build the firewall with small, repeatable acts: 2 breaths, a label, a single clarifying question, a short pause, and you widen the gap between stimulus and reaction. Over time, the calm pilot becomes steadier, and drama takes fewer turns in your day. The Stoic Gap: the secret space between a trigger and your response. Facts first: triggers hit the lizard brain in a heartbeat, and the body tightens before you can think. The secret space between trigger and response exists, and you can train yourself to use it. Emotions are data, not instructions. They show what your perception is registering, not what you must do next. The gap is the stretch of time where you can choose a better move. The calm pilot can rise if you practice. The emotional firewall helps you hold on to your aim while the heat passes. To work with the gap, name the trigger and the feeling. The data you notice might be danger, injustice, irritation, or disappointment. Label it simply: anger data, fear data, frustration data. Acknowledge that this is data, not a command. Then observe the body. Notice the shoulders tensing, the jaw clenching, the heartbeat quickening. Let the calm pilot take the wheel by stepping into the gap with a pause. Pause means you stop the impulse long enough to breathe. Breathe slowly, letting the exhale be longer than the inhale. This breathing acts like a small valve on the engine of arousal. The emotional firewall rises as you set that boundary between signal and action. Ask a simple, practical question to yourself: what is the data here, and what is my goal in this moment? The goal might be to stay safe, to be fair, to learn, or to preserve the relationship. Then choose a response that fits that goal. In real life, this works in small storms and big ones. A harsh comment in a meeting can sting, but you can reply with curiosity rather than accusation. A missed deadline can spark panic, yet you can acknowledge the setback and propose a plan. A text that feels sharp can trigger hurt. You can slow down and craft a measured reply that names the feeling without inflaming the room. The gap is not about suppressing emotion. It is about translating emotion into a signal you can act on with intention. When you speak, you rise from instinct and let the data guide your tone, your pace, and your choice of words. The calm pilot stays present, the lizard brain cools its fire, and the firewall holds your line. Practice builds the skill. Set 3 everyday triggers and rehearse the pause each time you encounter them. In conversations, when you sense heat rising, stop, breathe, and name what you feel. At work, when a setback hits, give yourself a moment to collect data and state a plan before you respond. On social media, let a hard reaction pass through the gap and craft a calm comment instead. The aim is not to feel nothing, but to feel with clarity. With repeated small pauses, the gap grows, and your controlled, gentle response becomes the natural choice. The more you train, the more the calm pilot can steer, the more your actions reflect your real aim rather than your first impulse. Meeting the lizard brain. Why you feel like you're dying when someone is rude. Rudeness triggers the oldest part of your brain. The lizard brain treats social threat as real danger to your survival. When someone is rude, your body can heat up, your breathing may shorten, and a surge of energy rushes through you. You might notice your heart pounding or your skin prickling. That rush is not a sign you're failing. It's a signal your nervous system is activated. Emotions are data, not instructions. The data arrive with speed, but the choice of how to respond comes later, in the part of you that can think clearly. To meet that rush, call on the calm pilot. This is your quieter mind, the part that can slow things down and choose a better move. Between the spark of insult and your reply lies the gap, a moment you can fill with purpose instead of impulse. Between data and decision, you can still steer. The emotional firewall is your mental boundary that helps you pause before acting. It isn't a wall of denial. It's a buffer that buys you time to check the data and decide what to do next. A small pause now saves bigger trouble later. When you feel anger rise because someone is rude, name what you notice. Say to yourself, I am feeling anger and I am feeling surprised. Then take a few calm breaths. A simple rhythm helps. Inhale and count to 4, hold a moment, exhale slowly to 4. This breathing slows your body's arousal and gives your mind room to think. If you can, put a sentence in your own words that keeps the conversation respectful. For example, I want to understand what you mean. Can we talk about this calmly? If you need more time, you can say, I need a moment to think, and we can continue in a minute. The goal is not to win the argument, but to protect your own clarity. Practice helps. A quick daily routine trains your calm pilot. Notice tension in your body, name the emotion, and choose a tiny pause before replying in any chat or meeting. Keep a small journal of triggers, the rude tone, the setting, the person. Record what your body felt and what you did next. Over time, you'll spot patterns and you'll craft better responses. Build a few ready phrases you can drop in when you're surprised by rudeness. Short, calm lines reduce heat quickly and set a safer path for the conversation. Remember that emotions are data arriving fast. They tell you something happened, not what you must do. The lizard brain wants you to react quickly to protect yourself. The calm pilot wants you to respond with thoughtfulness. The gap is not a trap but a doorway to a wiser move. The emotional firewall is a simple tool. Pause, breathe, name, and choose. With regular practice, a rude moment becomes a chance to show restraint, to set a boundary, and to model steadiness under pressure. You can train a calmer, more rational brain by treating every hit of emotion as information to be read, not a command to be followed. Name it to tame it. How labeling an emotion physically shuts down its power. Emotions are data, not instructions, and naming them turns a storm of feeling into a signal you can read rather than a command you must obey. This is the start of an emotional firewall. The lizard brain wants quick acts and loud words, but the calm pilot waits for a careful plan. Label first. By naming what you feel, you give your brain a map, and that map quiets the heat in the body. In a tense moment, pause becomes your first tool. Then name it plainly. For example, I am feeling anger or I am anxious. The gap opens as you shift from impulse to observation. Breath follows, slow and steady, and the calm pilot takes over as the lizard brain cools. Labeling tells the brain that danger is not here and now, but information to be observed and understood. Labeling sharpens thinking and reduces the surge of adrenaline by engaging the parts of your brain that regulate feeling. Your thinking brain steps in and buys you time. Emotions are data, not instructions. They point to what matters, not what you must do in the next breath. If you hear anger and call it anger, you stop the impulse to lash out and your body stays in control. Practice labeling during quiet moments so the words come easily when stress arrives. Try a brief drill that fits in 1 minute. Scan, name, breathe, pause, decide. First, scan your body and name a feeling. Second, notice the breath and let it slow. Third, choose a response with the calm pilot, while the emotional firewall holds back a rash reply. In a real talk, if a coworker interrupts, you can say, "I am frustrated," take a breath, and then say, "Give me a moment to finish my thought." The view from above, using a Stoic perspective to shrink your problems. A Stoic view teaches that most problems shrink when you lift your attention above the moment. Emotions are data, not instructions. The view from above lets you watch the scene as if you were piloting a plane rather than riding in a storm. Your brain keeps an alarm system on alert, but you can choose what to do with its signal. The map you use for control uses simple labels: the lizard brain, the emotional firewall, the calm pilot, and the gap. First, pause. That pause is your emotional firewall, a moment to separate the pull of feeling from the choice of action. Label what you feel: fear, anger, or disappointment. Remember that emotions are data, not orders. Ask a simple question: what matters right now? Then let the calm pilot take the wheel. At work, a slammed notification can trip the lizard brain. Pause, name the emotion, and wait. The gap opens between trigger and action, and that space lets you choose a better reply. In a tense conversation, you can respond with questions rather than thrusting statements. With the calm pilot in charge, a message can be calm, clear, and useful. Daily practice builds the toolbox. Start the morning by naming your top values and the actions that fit them. During the day, pause after a setback and observe the data before acting. Evening reflection helps you grow. What went well and what could be better? Over time, the emotional firewall strengthens, the lizard brain quiets, and the calm pilot can guide you toward more rational choices. The biological reset, using your breath to hack your nervous system instantly. Breath is the fastest dial you have for the nervous system, and it works in seconds. When stress spikes, signals from the lizard brain push you toward quick, loud reactions. A simple shift in breathing can flip that signal and trigger a biological reset. This reset is real physiology. The vagus nerve is nudged to calm the body, the heart slows slightly, muscles loosen, and the flood of stress hormones eases. Emotions are data, not instructions. They report what your body is experiencing, not what you must do next. When a storm hits, you can create a small gap between what you feel and how you act. Breath becomes the bridge that crosses this gap. The calm pilot can take control while the lizard brain settles. Box breathing trains the pause by cycling breath in equal segments. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and pause for 4 before you breathe again. Repeat a few cycles until you feel the tension loosen. Coherent breathing offers a steady, gentle tempo that the nervous system recognizes as safe. Keep breath smooth and even, a touch slower than your normal rhythm, and let the exhale be slightly longer than the inhale to favor calm. Practice this during small moments of stress, a difficult call, a tight deadline, or a heated exchange. The gap grows when you respect the pause. You respond, not react. Emotions are data you collect, not commands you must follow. Daily practice matters. Use small, frequent sessions to build a default calm. Before meetings, meals, or after a workout, take a minute for diaphragmatic breathing. Lips relaxed, belly rising with each inhale, exhale winding down. Picture the emotional firewall you raise with each deliberate breath, a border between stimulus and response. The calm pilot speaks softly, letting the mind observe the data from the lizard brain and choose a wise, measured step. Over time, the breath becomes a trusted tool, the fastest way to reset and keep your decisions grounded in clarity rather than impulse. Cognitive reframing, turning "this is a disaster" into "this is a challenge." Cognitive reframing is a practical tool that helps you move from reaction to response. Emotions are data, not instructions. The lizard brain lights up when things look dangerous, and the calm pilot quietly weighs options. Between a strong feeling and a calm action sits the gap, the moment you choose what to do next. Reframing takes that moment and steers it toward a clearer path. To use it, first pause. Then name what you feel and what it's telling you. Emotions point to what matters, not to what must happen. A common trap is labeling a thought as truth. You can notice the thought without arguing with it. A simple shift is to turn "this is a disaster" into "this is a challenge I can handle with a plan." You can practice small reframes in everyday moments. For example, when a meeting goes sideways, you can tell yourself, "This is a setback, not the end of the project." Then look for a concrete next step you can take, rather than dwelling on the bad news. The Calm Pilot works best when you separate the data from the story you tell yourself. The data is what happened. The story is your interpretation. If you spill coffee and think, "I'm a mess," reframe to "spills happen. I can clean this and keep moving." If you miss a deadline and hear, "I failed," reframe to "I'm dealing with a delay. I can adjust the plan and communicate what's next." The gap invites you to ask, "What is actually under my control right now?" The answer becomes the next small action, almost always something doable and specific. This is where you turn emotion into forward motion. Practicing in real life helps. Start with a tough moment and give it a new frame. A busy morning can feel overwhelming, but you can reframe it as a test of focus and a chance to set priorities. A tense conversation can feel like a trap, yet you can see it as a data point about needs and boundaries, not a personal verdict. The emotional firewall stands between you and knee-jerk drama. It holds back the impulse to lash out or give up. The lizard brain might roar, but the Calm Pilot speaks, asks questions, and chooses the next small step. In time, reframing shrinks the space where panic lives and expands the space where options live. The aim is steady practice. Each moment gives you data about what matters, and reframing turns that data into a plan. You don't pretend the situation is easy. You simply adjust your lens so it shows chances instead of chaos. With consistent use, the habit grows. You notice the emotion, you name it, you reframe, and you act. That small sequence is a reliable engine for a calmer, more rational brain. The training ground. Why you should practice being calm when things are easy. Emotions are data, not instructions. When life is easy, you have room to read that data and not act on it. Picture the Calm Pilot at the wheel, steady and clear, while the lizard brain buzzes in the backseat. The emotional firewall is small at first, but every calm moment adds brick to it. You practice noticing feelings without giving them a loud veto. That practice makes the map of your mind easier to read when a storm arrives. Why practice calm in easy times? Calm moments become a training ground. In quiet days, you can rehearse the exact moves you want your brain to default to later. Without pressure, you can test what helps and what doesn't. If you wait for a crisis to train, the tools you reach for may be weak or tangled. The gap between feeling and action stays hidden in ease, and you use it to plan a better response. The more you train, the more the Calm Pilot can steer, even when the storm returns. Here is a simple way to start. 3 breaths to begin any pause, then name the emotion you notice. That naming is a tiny victory, a claim of control without force. Next, decide on a response that fits your goal, not the impulse that rises first. See the emotion as data, not instructions to crash through. Let the lizard brain do its job of warning you, while the Calm Pilot charts a safer path. Imagine the firewall rising brick by brick as you repeat the pattern in easy moments. The gap opens when you step back, count, and choose a response that keeps your long-term aims in view. Put this into everyday practice. While waiting in line, before a conversation with a coworker, or during a routine task that bores you, slow down and check in. In those moments, you're not chasing a result, you're building the steel inside your head. The Calm Pilot stays closer when you practice with small stakes. Emotions stay data, not instructions, and you stay in control long enough to learn what works. With steady repetition, the emotional firewall grows taller, and the lizard brain loses its grip. You gain a habit of calm that travels with you into tougher times. Emotional mastery isn't about feeling less, it's about leading more. Emotions are data, not instructions. They surface to tell us what matters in this moment. The lizard brain moves first, loud and fast, signaling danger or reward. The Calm Pilot sits a moment away, keeping a steady hand on the wheel. Emotional mastery isn't about turning down feelings, it's about learning to steer the ship while the weather rises. You lead your response, not simply ride the surge. When a strong feeling arrives, you can choose the next move instead of reacting from impulse. Create the emotional firewall around your attention. The first brick is a pause. Take a breath and name the emotion. The second brick is framing the data. This signal says my boundary or time is being pressed. The gap appears between impulse and action, a small space you can use to decide. The Calm pilot then charts a simple course, a brief reply, a delay, or a request for more information before you act. Each choice matters, even a small one, and patterns form over time. Practice in small moments. In traffic, you can slow, breathe, and reframe the signal. At work, you can say, "Let me think about that," instead of snapping. With a friend, you can acknowledge the feeling and ask for a short pause before continuing. The data view helps. Naming the emotion separates it from your action. Your brain learns new habits when you repeat the Calm pilot routine. Over time, the lizard brain yields a bit more to the Calm pilot. The gap grows, and responses become deliberate rather than reflexive. The emotional firewall strengthens, and your attention stays clear. Emotional mastery isn't about feeling less, it's about leading more. You're not broken. The mind can learn. Think of your emotions as data, not instructions. The lizard brain fires up to warn you. The Calm pilot can steer you. The gap is the pause between feeling and action. The emotional firewall stands, ready to slow impulses so you choose on purpose. Key points, plain and simple. Emotions carry data about what you need, not orders to act. Give yourself a moment to acknowledge them, then let the Calm pilot take over. The gap between impulse and action is where you choose what to do next. The emotional firewall helps you avoid rash moves. Here's a practical routine you can use. Pause when a strong feeling arrives. Breathe slowly and evenly. Name the emotion you feel. Look for the data behind it. Am I seeking safety, connection, control, or meaning? Decide on a tiny action that fits your goal and values, something small you can do right now. Then act with intention, not on impulse. Let the data guide you, not dictate you. If you've ever felt pulled to lash out or shut down, you're not alone. You're practicing a skill that grows with time, a quiet discipline you can carry through your day. Try this for 7 days and notice what shifts. Share one emotion you saw clearly this week and one tiny action you tried in the comments. If this lands, subscribe for more simple tools to keep your mind steady. Next, we'll map the gap more deeply, explore quick rituals to stretch that pause, and add a pocket-sized practice you can use anywhere. Thanks for being here. Keep training the Calm pilot.